Pickleball is evolving fast, and this next year is going to separate a lot of players. The ones who stay ahead are going to have a real, almost unfair advantage, while everyone else gets left behind because they're not adapting. I want you to make sure you're on the right side of that. So in this video, I'm breaking down these 6 shots you need to focus on and build into your game if you want to stay ahead, stay sharp, and gain the edge that most players won't even realize they're missing. Let's get into it. Quick thing before we start, early bird access for the Pickleball Collective is officially open. This is the online platform I've spent the last year building, and it's more valuable than anything else out there. Inside, you'll get the exact frameworks on how to think, play, train, and understand the game at a truly high level. Plus, you'll get a constant flow of new videos from myself and other top pros. It's a community of players who are obsessed with getting better, where all your questions actually get answered, and you'll have a clear path to improving. Early Bird gets you the lowest price there will ever be, along with a few extra perks. So if you want in, drop your email in the waitlist below, and we'll send you everything you need to know. Moving into this next year, you need to have a two-handed backhand in your game. All the top pros are adding it, and it gives you a real advantage over players who are still relying on their one-hander. The old days of hitting floating slices and getting picked on your one-handed backhand are over. With a two-handed backhand, you can create so much more off the bounce, use a lot more deception, and become way more threatening at the kitchen line. It opens up your options, it stabilizes your defense, and it takes away one of the biggest targets players use to attack. Once you add this into your game, the backhand side stops being a weakness and it actually becomes one of your biggest weapons. So for the two-handed backhand dink, we have to think about positioning a little more than if we were just hitting a slice dink. We have to get there with our legs, and I like to say get our outside leg behind the ball or even around that ball, because we want to try to contact that ball in between our legs a little bit. So the ball is kind of right in front of us, which makes it a lot easier. And then also we want to make sure that we're not hitting the ball like this, that we're really getting under that ball with our hips, and we're kind of slightly pushing up a little bit when we're hitting this shot. We don't want to be leaning. In order to hit a good backhand dink or two-handed backhand dink, we have to make sure that we're in great positioning. That is the biggest key. And so here's what it looks like when I'm getting in position. I'm getting behind that ball with my legs, and you can see how I'm almost squatting next to that ball. Right behind it, I'm making sure that I'm in good position every single time. And it makes it very simple for me to be able to hit this shot. The second key is making sure we're leading with this left arm here. So when I'm hitting this shot, I'm not using that much right arm. This is really helping me guide, but it's really that left arm here that I'm extending towards my target. So if I'm going cross court, I'm extending that left arm here. And if I'm going down the line, I'm extending the left arm here. Similar to your forehand dink, right? You would extend your arm where you're hitting that shot. I'm doing that with the backhand dink as well. So I'm getting in position and I'm extending that left arm. I'm just pushing it forwards, towards my target every single time. And I'm leading with that left arm, okay? If I wanna go middle, my left arm goes middle. If I wanna go cross, my left arm goes cross. And the last key for the two-handed backhand dink especially is gonna make sure that we have a locked wrist here. We don't want a lot of movement here. This is gonna remove that stability. We're hitting so close to our opponents here that any type of looseness here can give our opponents a pop-up and just make it very hard to control. We're cupping that ball. So really we're just using that left arm to push, but this is locked and our arm is not extending a lot. We're just cupping the ball with one lever, which is gonna be our shoulder here. So we'll see what this looks like when I'm just cupping the outside of that ball. So I'm really trying to get around that shot. I'm not trying to get behind it. I'm just keeping my wrist locked and I'm getting the outside of that ball. And then one extra tip, if we do want to speed this shot up, we're still going to show the same motion, but right when we are about to hit, we'd let go of that locked wrist, and then we can use our left wrist here to really shape the ball or create. So we can dink like this here, and then if I want to release it, boom, I can let that wrist go and fire. The drip is a hybrid between the drop and a drive, and it's one of the most important upgrades you can make heading into this new year. It's more aggressive than a drop, but less aggressive than a drive. Almost like a 50% drive, where your goal is to land the ball low at your opponent's feet. What makes the drip so powerful is that it lets you take control of the point right away while it's still keeping the ball unattackable. There's a moment after your opponent returns and starts moving forward into the kitchen where they're vulnerable. The drip lets you attack that window. By sending a low moving ball at their feet, you force a pop-up, set your partner up to move in early, and immediately put their team on defense from the very start of the point. The first key you have to know about the drip is it's not a full swing. A lot of people will come out and try to hit this shot at 70, 80% power, but we actually want to use 40 to 50% power. And we do that by slowing down our swing a little bit and kind of having an abbreviated hybrid swing. Rather than taking the ball and hitting it full swing like this and trying to get that ball to cross the net and then fall, I'm actually just taking a little pace off this ball and I'm just swinging upwards and pushing that ball forwards, and I want it to cross the net and fall. So if I'm hitting very hard, it's not gonna fall when it crosses the net. I'm aiming lower over the net and I want it to drip over. Key number 2 for the drip is making sure that we're actually taking priority before we hit that shot with a big, deep serve. So the more space we can create in that period of time from the returner hitting that return and coming up to the kitchen line, the easier it's gonna be for us to execute this shot. We want them to have the most amount of distance to travel and the most amount of space for us to play with that margin. So if we push our serve deep and we get them deep in the court, that's what's gonna actually allow us to create that room and space. If we hit a short serve, this shot's not gonna be that effective because their return's gonna be better and we're not gonna have that much room to play at their feet. So I'm gonna serve deep into the court and wait for that shorter return and try and pounce on it a little quicker. And again, I'm not trying to hit the shot hard. I'm really just guiding it at his feet. I want it to cross that net and fall. But if I can get that serve deep, it's gonna make my life way easier here. And so the final key for the drip is making sure that once we hit that shot, we're following it in, or we tell our partner to follow that shot in. So if you're hitting this shot and you're putting it low at them, they're probably gonna hit that ball upwards. And when they're hitting that ball upwards, we need to make sure that we're taking that next ball high and attacking it. Especially if they give us that high ball, we don't want missed opportunities. So when we hit this shot, we wanna follow it in because they're instinctively gonna hit that ball upward. With players getting better at attacking and paddles giving everyone more power and spin, it's more important than ever to be able to counter effectively. And not just the easy ones right in front of you, you need to be able to handle all kinds of attacks from different angles and different contact points. I'm gonna show you the keys to hitting a controlled, protected, and reliable counter volley so you can absorb pace, stay stable, and turn defense into offense. When you master this, you become the player on the court that nobody wants to attack. In order to have a stable, strong counter volley, we need to make sure that we're very stable with our base, meaning our legs. A lot of people, when they get attacked, they'll jump, they'll pop up, and they're a little wild with their lower body. You need to be stable with your lower body and fast with your upper body. If we're jumping all over the place, it's gonna be very hard to time, it's gonna take power away from our counter, and we're not gonna be as fast up here. So if he speeds up at me and I'm very stable with my body here, it's gonna be a lot easier than if he attacks me and I am jumping all over the place. That's gonna have, just not the effect of a counter volley that we want. The second key for the counter volley is understanding that a lot of people are very strong right here, but it's a lot harder to counter when someone attacks your wings. If he speeds up at my wing, I'm not gonna be as strong here as I am here. And so the way we fix this is something that a lot of pros are doing, which is adding that left arm to this factor. So if he attacks my backhand here, I have this left arm to give me stability and power, and I can close that. And now my counter is covered in this position. So if he speeds up there, I'm gonna give him a counter back that's deadly rather than something that he can attack and get a weaker ply and then put away. And so the third and final key for the counter volley is making sure that we're in position before that attack is hit. And we do this with the tracking technique. And that is taking the tip of our paddle and making sure that we're following the ball after we hit our dink. So I'll dink this way, my paddle tip falls that way. And I dink over here, my paddle tip comes over there. And so what that does is it locks me in a ready position. Having fast hands comes before the attack is even hit. If we're in position, our hands are just going to be way faster because there's a lot less we have to do. We don't want to have to take these huge reaction swings. We want to take small bunts that we can really just get behind and focus on hitting a good counter volley rather than always having to bring all this weight everywhere. Let's just lock ourselves in the right position. Let's do that before the attack's hit when we're dinking. Also, if your opponent sees you in ready position more often, they're not going to attack you as much, right? So if I dink over here and he attacks me, I'm locked in a good position. And same thing, if I dink over here and he attacks me, I'm ready for it. Use the tracking technique to follow the ball, very simple. The next shot might seem random, but it's absolutely critical moving into the next year. As players get more aggressive at the kitchen line, this is the shot that almost everyone gets wrong. When you get pushed wide or stretched on a dink, most players feel like they need to do a lot with that ball. But one of the most effective plays you can make is actually a defensive dead dink. This is a soft, shallow dink with almost nothing on it, played right in front of you towards the middle of the court. This completely neutralizes their aggressive patterns and resets the point instantly. Instead of forcing something from a bad position, you're restarting the rally in a way that takes the advantage away from them. Over the course of a match, this technique is unbelievably effective. The first thing we need to think about with hitting this defensive dead dink is that we're not trying to do anything with this ball other than put it shallow and short in the court. A lot of people will try to create on this ball, pushing that ball wide, throwing a lot of spin on it, trying to really counteract that aggressive dink, but really we're just trying to neutralize. So if we can do nothing with this ball, that's actually better. So if he pulls me out here, I'm not trying to push this ball all the way across court and do too much. I'm actually just trying to hit a dead short dink here and do nothing with that ball. I'm really taking all that pace off, buying myself time to get back to the center and resetting that rally. The second thing I want you to think about is when we're having this crosscourt dink rally, they pull us out with an aggressive dink. We don't want to try and go all the way back cross court. We want to go closest to us with removing the threat. So we have this Ernie threat right here where they can hop the line. We have the pop-up threat, especially if we try to go back cross court. I want to play the ball closest to us, which is going to be probably in this middle area here. And this is going to remove angle for them. So rather than coming all the way back cross court, he pulls me out wide and I'm just resetting this ball right there, kind of towards the center, but still in front of me. And the last thing I want you to think about is when we're hitting this shot, whether it's on our forehand or our backhand side, we want to open that paddle face and get under the ball. This is going to be the easiest way for us to change that tempo, take pace on that, off that ball, and making sure we're just floating it right over the net. So I'll show you what it looks like here. He pulls me out wide and I'm just getting right under that ball with an open paddle face rather than him pushing me out and I'm getting behind that ball and I'm popping it up. If I can just get under that ball and kind of just cup it from behind, I'll hit a shallow dink and I won't have to focus on really trying to control my paddle face and eventually popping it up or just feeling unstable. It's just a very simple, just get under the ball, have an open paddle face, and you're just lightly pushing forward. The next shot you need is very underrated, but it's the push volley. A simple but incredibly effective play that lets you take the ball out of the air and still dink it back to your opponent. What this does is actually shrinks the kitchen for them. When you're leaning forward and looking to attack and your opponent gives you a dink that's not high enough to speed up, most players step back and try to let it bounce. Instead, by volleying that dink out of the air, you keep the pressure on, you take away their time, and you move the ball around without ever giving up ground. More and more high-level players are using this to their advantage because it lets you control the tempo and stay in an offensive position even in neutral points. First thing you need to know is when we're hitting this push volley, we don't want to have a very, very light grip. We actually want to have a firm grip to where we can stabilize that paddle and just push it a few inches here. We're not doing a lot with that ball, but we have a nice solid grip for our paddle to rebound. So the second thing is making sure that when we're using this push volley, we have this paddle tip down. When we have the paddle tip sideways, we get a little bit of a wobble here. And again, since we're doing so little with this ball, we want to make sure we have stability. If that paddle tip's down, we're going to be a lot more stable, and we can really just use this as a lever to push that ball around. So I'll show you what it looks like here. See, I'm just pushing around, taking the ball out of the air, and I'm shrinking that kitchen while still hitting effective dinks. But that paddle tip is down, it makes it a lot easier. Tip number 3 is making sure that we're just pushing and poking. We're not swinging. We're really just taking this ball and redirecting it. So if he leaves something high here and I don't see I can attack it, I'm simply just redirecting that ball out of the air and moving it around. And I'm just poking that ball, right? I'm just poking, and I can even disguise him by speeding up something through him. But for the most part, I'm just poking that ball around. And I can really disguise whether I'm going to attack like I just did there or whether I'm just going to dink it back. But the goal is to shrink this kitchen line and allow you to not give up this ground right here. You're still in a dominant position, good posture, and you're still able to hit effective dinks from out of the air. This next year is going to be the year of the combo. The days of speeding up for one-shot winners are over. Players have faster hands, better counters, and way more stability than ever before. But off-the-bounce speed-ups gives you something even more dangerous. It lets you start the combo instead of immediately trying to win the point. By initiating the attack off the bounce, you set yourself up for an easier volley or put away on the very next ball. You're not trying to blast the first shot, you're using it to create the second one. And when you run this pattern, the opportunities become endless. The first key we need to think about when executing this shot is making sure that the first initiation attack we have off the bounce is not 100%. We're going 50, 60, 70%, picking spots on their body that are vulnerable, and we're getting a next ball that we can put away and effectively use as a combo. So we're going 1-2 or 1-2-3. It's never just that one-shot winner anymore. If they do miss that first shot, great, but we need to make sure that we're using that first shot as an initiation with that 50, 60% ball. It's gonna look something like this. He gives me that nice height ball. I speed up, boom, and I use it as a combo rather than just trying to hit a one-shot winner. I'm not going 100% on that first ball. I'm really just picking a spot, going 50, 60%, a little bit off pace, and then I'm ready. The second key is that when we attack, we wanna make sure we're choosing vulnerable spots on our opponent's body here. Instead of just going hard at them where they're going to be very strong, we want to pick spots like the chicken wing or the backhand wing where they're not going to be able to generate power or they're going to be jammed here. So if I get this ball, I'm not going hard at him, I might go right hip and then execute that counter, or I might go backhand wing where he's not going to be able to generate a lot of power. So I'm mixing these spots up, but the biggest thing is I'm not just going big at him and hoping that I'm going to be there for the next shot. I'm picking spots where I can say, hey, I know that he's only going to be able to generate 70% power, or he's going to be a little jammed here. This is going to be better for my next put away shot. The third thing we need to realize is when we're hitting this shot, we need to anticipate our second ball a little bit. So we initiate that attack with the second ball in mind. We can use that rebound effect, which is basically if I attack over here, I know the ball's going to rebound over here, or if I attack in front of me, I know that ball is going to come back in the same direction, almost like we're attacking on a wall. That's where a lot of people are going to hit their counter. So in this example, I'm going to speed up cross body and anticipate the counter this way. And because of that rebound effect, I know where that next ball is most likely going to be, and I can anticipate and get my paddle there early. So even if he does hit a good counter, I'm already in a good position to put that next one away. Those are the shots you need if you want to get ahead as we move into the next year. And just a reminder before you go, early bird access for the Pickleball Collective is now open. I mentioned it at the start, but this is really something special we've been building for a long time, and the early bird price will never be this low again. If you want to learn the frameworks behind how high-level players think and train and be part of a community that's obsessed with getting better, there's a link in the description. Just drop your email and we'll send you everything you need to know. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.